place today?
Shoot, I'm a Philadelphian, and I root for all local teams.
Obviously, this is your first week through this. How do you balance, taking care of yourself and making sure you get enough sleep? And I mean, we talk about your all football and all that. How do you make sure you're sharp and ready to go by Sunday?
It is, I laughed and I chuckled at that. But the more I'm around the game, the more I've learned that you do have to be fresh if when to come in here and to have your mind working right. So I kind of laugh about sleep, but also know it's important. But we have a job to do, and we have a limited amount of time to get everything done we need to get done. So that's first, but we try to do everything in a way where we're not wasting time, where we're very efficient with what we do and get a lot of information watched and talked about done. So very important for us that we do take our mental health and our physical health to mind. So when we're to make sure that we're fresh. But that really when you do talk about that, you catch up a little bit at the end of the week. Sometimes you're going to see me on Wednesdays. It's going to look like I haven't slept, but the end of the week we catch up on that a little bit more than anything.
Nick, this is your first planning week, so can you kind of take the fans through your process? You talk about collaborative. Do you hand out third downs to certain coaches, red zone? How does that work?
Everything's together. There's just nothing. If I'm going to call the game, it's going to be really hard for me to hand anything out to somebody without my hand on it, right? And so I like to do it together, and I like to all be in the same room so we know what everyone's thinking, and that's everything. That's run game, that's screens, that's first and second down, that's third down, that's red zone, that's tight red zone runs, that's low red zone runs, that's 2 minute, that's 4 minute, that's backed up. We're going to do everything together. And it goes a little bit longer. You get a little less sleep that way, but if you're going to call the game, I just think you got to have your hand in everything and understand the why behind why you're calling everything. And that's going to be, that's just really important to me, and that's just the way I've always operated in this game planning thing.
What's been the process of trying to figure out how opposing defenses will play Jalen Hurts and his set of skills?
Yeah, you sometimes you don't know. I get it. So you have to go, no matter if it's Jalen or I'm going back to my last year with Phillip Rivers, or if it's Andrew Luck, you always try to watch somebody who's like you, right? The offenses that you watch you want to go and watch them like the teams that you're like, right? So. And that's the same thing when you have a dominant receiver or a dominant tight end. You want to watch the games of how a defensive coordinator thinks about players and how he thinks about scheme. So the process is who's kind of like us or who that we think we're going to be like, and let's watch the game against them to see how they attack them. Because really, at the end of the day, we're not all that different. Like when we're playing similar defenses, of course, when we think about plays that we're gonna run, we think about it like, hey, what did we run against this defense against a guy who was kind of like him? So they're no different than us. I've been around a bunch of defensive coordinators, and they seem to be no different than us as offensive coordinators. And so that's kind of our process of how we go through it.
Coach, how do you know if you have 4 defenders really making your debut, not rookies, you had your punters new, you're new, how do you explain to them what Eagles football is?
You know what? That's just been a conversation. Oh, as you're saying, I got you. You're saying in general what Eagles football is not what we are as a team and what we've been talking about every day. I think we've definitely talked about our core values and everything like that. So I think we know exactly who we are in this building. I know we know exactly who we are in this building and what core values are important to us and what things are important to us, et cetera, et cetera. But we've also done a good job, I think, as a staff and as a team talking about the history that this team has, that the city has, right? And how good of fans we have and how passionate of fans we have. So that's been being discussed from early on. Just how special it is. Hey, you guys that haven't played for the Philadelphia Eagles or coached, how special it actually is here in this city with the fans that we have. And so we've been talking about that. We have a division rival board up here. I know we're not playing a division rival, but that kind of shows that. And on this big screen, that it shows the plays that were made against all the division rivals. And it shows the fans a lot too, just going crazy against those division rivals too. So we've talked a lot about who we are as a team, and then we've also talked about this city, this organization, and the history that it has, and the proud tradition that it has.
The relationship between coach and quarterback is about as important as any. How have you worked to grow that with Jalen since you got here, and what's the dynamic like on game week? Once you get
Sure,
into the game.
I'm in every quarterback meeting. I'm in every offensive meeting, and running quarterback meetings. We kind of run quarterback meetings a little different. Like Brian has a part that he runs, Shane's has a part that he runs, and then I have a part that I run when we're talking about the plays that we're running that week, and when we're watching the film. So it's just like you kind of like. When you're in all those meetings, the quarterback meetings go longer, right? I mean, there's a schedule that's out, and it says, hey, this quarterbacks or the team goes from here to here. Quarterback meetings go longer. They start earlier, they go longer. That's just the way it is, and we're in there the whole time. So part of you with the quarterback, you have no choice but to grow closer, right? It's like you get closer just because of the time that you spend with them, but we're also obviously, and I joke about that because. I'm saying Jalen. Jalen has to be close to me because I'm in those meetings with him all the time. But no, and it's just other ways to do that. Like it's important that we don't just have a football relationship, right? And that's important for me with every player on our team, that I have more than a surface level relationship with our players, right? There's more to it, and so that's connecting on different things, right? I text them after the Alabama game. I text him after the Oklahoma game. He's got two teams I can kind of razz him about. You don't really get to razz him about Alabama too much. But no, so it's finding different ways to connect family. He's got a dad that's a high school football coach. I really am interested in how he's doing as a coach and how his team's doing, because I know that's important to me with my brother who's a coach.
How much do you think the offense has changed since you probably came in with your offense? How much has it changed since you've had Jalen to cater to his skill sets?
Yeah, I think that you'll see on Sunday that the answer to that question. As for competitive reasons, I don't really want to answer that question right now. But you'll see a little bit more on that, and I can answer that for you a little bit better this upcoming week.
How prepared do you feel you are going into this game, as well as this team? I'm sure you're excited, trying to keep those emotions in check. But as far as preparation, days away, how do you feel, and how do you think this team feels?
I've said this to a couple people that every day in training camp was this preparation to how do you get better every day? How do you leave yesterday, or how do you leave the day better than you were the day before? And I really believe, because of the players that we have on this team that know how to win and know how to play and know how to practice, we did that gradually. And then that sets you up for a position where you're like, now I'm ready for game one, right? And so, you don't even think about that in training camp, but it's a very important step that you're making those steps along the way, to when you get to this Monday or you get to this Wednesday, you're ready to say, now it's the preparation of this week to be ready. So I definitely feel like we put ourselves in a position to be ready to be here right now. And now there's still a lot, the hay's not in the barn yet, right? There's still a lot of work to be done. But right now, in the obviously in the things that are in right now, first and second down, third down that's in right now, we feel confident that we're ready. But we also know this too, that there's a lot of unknowns. Like they have they have that same type of advantage, if you will, that we have, right? That we don't know exactly what they're going to do, and that's what's great about football. You can have a plan, right? You can have this beautiful plan. But you better be able to know how to adjust and what you want to adjust to based off of what they're doing. So feel very confident and ready, but we also feel very confident and ready that we're going to be able to adjust when need be, because that's how we live and that's how we call football games.
Following up on that answer, you obviously have a background with Arthur Smith being in the AFC South, but like you said, it's kind of a guessing game. How is that guessing game going for you this first week on the job, game planning wise?
Yeah, again, it's studying old tapes. So I think we're in a good spot right now. I got a ton of respect for Arthur and his abilities as a coach. He's a great person as well, and he's going to have their guys ready to play. You saw it over and over again that his teams were well coached. The offenses that he ran were well coached. They were fundamentally sound, and they knew how to attack a defense. And he did what his players did best. So I respect the heck out of that. I know it's going to be a challenge for us with Arthur.
Has Brian Johnson been able to give you any insight on Kyle Pitts at all?
Of course, yeah. I mean, that went all the way back to when we were evaluating him, right? I mean, so Brian's been able to give us a ton of insight on him, and so the one thing that keeps coming back is that he's a really good player, and so we know we're going to have to handle him and handle things that he can do.
Is there more of an unknown with Jalen Hurts going into this game than, let's say, you guys with Matt Ryan, just because he's been around for so long?
I think probably a little bit. Yeah, I think probably a little bit. Matt's played a lot of games, a lot of years. He's a heck of a football player. He just always feels like with him, like, again, that he knows exactly where to go with the football, when to go with the football, at what time to go with the football with it, and he's a very accurate passer, and he does it year after year after year after year. So, and I know Arthur's a good coach, and I know good coaches do what their players do well. So, you can expect that a little bit more there, just because of the years that Matt's played. I think that's a great question.
How'd you come?
Follow up to Tim's question and Jesper. Are you at the point with Jalen yet, or Jalen at the point with the offense yet, where you know he plays in concepts that he might prefer, or is that more trial and error after a few games?
I think we're pretty close there. It's never perfect because you're always going to have some game plan plays that you haven't done a ton of, and that's why I meet with him all week, right? And it's if Jalen doesn't, if I like something and Shane likes something and Brian likes something and we love it and he hates it, we ain't gonna run it. So that's just something that. So yes, we're to that point, but we also it's an ongoing thing because sometimes you don't like something against a certain defense or whatever it is. So that's an ongoing conversation, ongoing thing. But I think we're there. We're pretty close.
COVID testing with so many players coming back from being all over the country.
Yeah, right now we're good. We're in a good spot.
How much of a challenge is it for first game with Jalen facing a Dean Pease defense with the multiple defensive looks on the front, but different coverages in the back end?
Oops, sorry. Yeah, again, it's studying that tape. Coach Pease always has challenges that he presents you. So we're studying the heck out of the tape, and it's again we're just getting him prepared with the plays that we have in against the defenses. But yeah, a guy like Dean Pease who's had a ton of success in this league, he always presents challenges, and we're gonna have to be ready for him. Jalen's gonna have to be ready for him. The entire team's gonna have to be ready for him.
Early on training camp, you mentioned that
earlier this week about his contract. You already have him by now. Expectation, I guess, for him was to be the number one tight end. Are you concerned at all? How has he handled the adjustment to his role? And we've seen it before with players that let their contracts affect them. Is that any concern of yours?
Sure. I'm not going to discuss the contract, obviously, or any player's contract, my contract, any player's contract. But I know that Dallas has been a pro, and I know that I enjoy being around Dallas every day. I know we're going to try like heck to get Dallas the football because he's a really good player. He's one of our really good players on this team. And I just see him come to work every day to get better every day. That's not my area either. And so we have a coach-player relationship, and I see him just working his tail off every day to get better and meeting hard every day. And I got a lot of confidence in him. Glad he's on this football team.
You mentioned that the RPO game wasn't something that you had a ton of experience with. What has it been like? Do you feel more comfortable with those plays?
Well, I think if you really look at what I said I didn't have a ton of experience with it going into the Indy years, right? And so that's why we brought our tight end coach back in Indy, Tom Manning, who's now the offense coordinator at Iowa State. That's why we brought him in there. That's why we brought Kevin Patullo into Indy, because he was with the Texas A&M the year before that. So, these last 3 years, I've got, and obviously Philadelphia in that 2017 had a lot of success with RPO. So, we've been in it pretty hard here, but you're always learning new things about it, right? You're learning new things from, especially that's what one of the reasons Brian Johnson's here is to grow that area of the RPO. So, obviously, again, some of these plays we've been running for 10 years, some of these plays 3 years, right? And so you're constantly learning more about it. But I feel like we're in a really good spot there, and it's an advantage to the, hey, you can't block a guy, read him. I mean, that's how I was taught the thing a long time ago. Don't want to block him, read him. So it's good for the offense, but you got to know the problems that present.
Contract year is something that you have to be cognizant of, and what have you seen through your career in terms of how it affects someone? Does it could have the opposite of effect?
Sure, yeah, sure. And I think that definitely can. And I think that's a good point. As a head coach, again, I'm more involved in that than I was as a coordinator. But I haven't handled it any differently so far, and until I need to, I probably won't handle it any differently than I have in the past.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, guys.